let me be straight with you. If you're watching this, it's not because you're lost. It's not because you're stupid. And it's definitely not because you lack information. It's because you're avoiding something. Because you know exactly what you should be doing, what you could be doing. You know where you're lying to yourself. And you know the gap between who you are and who you could be, who you want to be. And every day you delay yourself, you feel it tighten in your chest. That's not panic. That's not fear. That's what we call pressure. And this isn't some kind of motivational video. This is going to be confrontational, but it's going to have a lasting impact on you. Because the real reason you're stuck has nothing to do with discipline, time, or confidence. You're protecting an identity that's already failing. And the longer you protect it, the more expensive that protection becomes. Because let's be honest, you're functional, but you know that you're underperforming. Because from the outside looking in, you look fine. You get up, you go to work, you handle your responsibilities. You're not a complete mess, but you feel it, don't you? In here, in them moments with yourself, and in here, that low-level irritation, that background frustration that never fully quite switches off. You're not exhausted from doing too much. You're exhausted from not doing what you know that you should be doing. And that's why rest doesn't fix it. That's why weekends don't help. And that's why distractions only work temporarily. Because the problem's not effort, it's self-betrayal. Because every time you delay the thing that you know matters, your nervous system clocks it. Every time you choose comfort disguised as logic, yourself and your confidence erodes that little bit more. And do you want to know the worst part? You can't blame anybody else apart from yourself. Because here's why being smart is actually working against you. Because here's the part that most people won't tell you, the gurus won't tell you, that your intelligence is not your advantage right now. You've been using it as a shield, as a coping mechanism, because you think deeply, reflect constantly, and you can articulate problems and patterns better than most. But your thinking has become your hiding place. So you use insight instead of execution, understanding instead of standards, and awareness instead of pressure. You know exactly why you procrastinate. You know where it comes from. You know your childhood patterns, your triggers, your fears, your insecurities, and yet nothing changes because knowing is just safe. Actually taking action is risky. Doing creates a scoreboard. Doing removes plausible deniability and it forces a verdict. As long as you stay in your head, you can keep on telling yourself that same old story that you keep telling yourself, that I'm just figuring things out, I'm not ready yet, I want to be able to do it properly, so I'm getting the perfect plan. But what you're really saying to yourself every time you do this is, if I fully commit and fail, then I'm going to lose the identity I've got of myself of a capable person. So you stay half in, busy but not exposed, occupied but not fully accountable. And this is a trap that so many high performing men fall into. And here's the shame that you don't like to talk about, because there's a quiet shame that you carry that you don't ever voice to anybody. And it's not a kind of dramatic shame, not self-hatred, it's something much more subtler. And it's the shame of still being here in the same position. The shame of realising that you've been circling around the same internal problems for years. The shame of knowing that you've consumed enough content to change 10 lives, yet you haven't even managed to fully change your own. Because you're not scared you can't do it. You're scared that you've waited too long and too much time's gone by. And that fear just gets louder and louder, especially at night, when the distractions fade, when you imagine yourself 5 years on from now still negotiating with the same habits. And instead of letting that fear sharpen you, you just suppress it. So you scroll, you plan, you think, because facing it directly would demand that you take action on it. But here's exactly why you keep waiting for quote unquote the right time. Let's just kill this lie cleanly right now. There is no perfect or right time coming. You're not waiting for clarity. You're waiting for emotional safety. You want to feel confident before you act. You want certainty before commitment. You want motivation before discipline, but that's backwards. Confidence isn't built after consistent action. The clarity comes from the movement itself. Motivation follows your standards, not the other way around. So right now, drifting and being half in is protecting you. It keeps hope alive without requiring courage or action. It lets you believe that you could change without you having to prove it. Trying fully would force you to have an answer. And that's what scares you, in case it's the answer that you're not comfortable with. But here's the real cost of keep delaying it. Here's the part that should really bother you. Every month that you delay yourself, the bar gets heavier. Not because you change, Not because the change gets harder, but because your self-trust keeps on dropping. You stop believing your own promises. You stop respecting your internal voice. You stop feeling solid. And that's why small tasks feel way heavier than they should. That's why your mood fluctuates more than it used to. That's why you're so irritable without knowing why. And it's not even stress. It's the weight of unfinished integrity. Let me say it again. It's the weight of unfinished integrity. But here's what actually changes men like you and men like me and men like the ones who I coach. Let me be clear. You do not need more information, another book, another podcast, another insight. You need some constraint. Structure that removes negotiation, standards that don't care how you feel, and a system that forces momentum even on low motivation days. Because if you're left to yourself, your intelligence will always justify comfort. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. And this is why men like you don't change alone. Not because you lack willpower, but because you can't outthink your own discipline. This is exactly why I've built things like the Become Unfuckwithable Blueprint. The link's in the description. It's free. It's a system that changed my life and changed so many of my clients' lives. It's a framework. Something simple enough to execute, strict enough to create pressure, and flexible enough to last. No hype, just a daily structure that stops you negotiating with yourself, because these negotiations are what are keeping you small. And here's exactly why identity comes before behavior, and it's a mistake that you keep making. You're trying to fix your habits without confronting or changing your identity. You want better routines without admitting something uncomfortable. The man you are right now is being protected. Protected from embarrassment, protected from exposure, protected from finding out what happens when you finally decide to go all in. And until you let that version die, nothing's going to stick. That version of you hesitates. He feels that he needs to be ready. That version of yourself hides behind intelligence. He's not evil. He's just trying to keep you safe. But I promise he's no longer useful in this journey of growth that you're on, because growth begins the moment you decide to disappoint that version of yourself that prefers comfort and the easier route. That version of you that keeps showing up in your mind. You know exactly who he is when I'm talking about it. I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. The best version, the calmer, physically solid, mentally clear, confident without being loud. He's not imaginary. He just appears when you're quiet, when you're honest, and when you decide to stop numbing yourself. He's not waiting for motivation. He's waiting for permission. Permission to act without guarantees. Permission to be seen without trying. Permission to drop the performance. That version that shows up fast when structure replaces debate. Daily non-negotiable systems. But here's why talking about it isn't enough. If this video is resonating with you, then good. But resonance alone will not change your life. Insight without implementation just becomes another form of avoidance. That's why men that work with me in something like a power hour breakthrough call, the focus isn't motivation, because motivation comes and goes. The focus we focus on is clarity and pressure. We strip the excuses, we define daily non-negotiables, and we build a system that survives even on bad days. 1 hour of brutal honesty beats 6 months of passive content that makes no change. And it's not because I'm special. It's because clarity plus accountability collapses indecision. But the question you should not ignore, you've got this far in the video, so don't ignore this question. I want to leave you with this, because if nothing changes over the next 12 months, how will you be able to explain it to yourself? Not publicly, but internally. What story will you tell yourself just to justify that delay that little bit more? Because deep down, you already know the truth. You don't need permission. You don't need more time. You don't need another insight. You need to stop protecting the man that you are and start building the man that you respect. So if this hit, don't just scroll past it. Click the link in the description. The blueprint's there. It's free. At minimum, get your free copy of the Become Unfuckwithable Blueprint. Use it. Test yourself. Start growing. And if you're done circling around the same internal arguments, book a power hour breakthrough call with me and put the real pressure on the problem. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, now. Because the longer you keep waiting, the harder it becomes to believe in yourself. And that's the real danger here, losing that self-belief in yourself to make changes. Because the results are there that speak for himself. Click on my website and look at the client wins, the testimonials, the client spotlights. Men who are just like you, going through the similar problems, that have overcome it through these daily systems that create momentum and make you feel like a powerful, amazing, incredible version of yourself. But like I say, the link's in the description. It's free. The Become Unfuckwithable Blueprint is a free step-by-step system. It's been proven to work. It's worked for so many men before you, and it will work for you too, and probably work for so many men after you as well. So what are you waiting for? Click the link, download it, let it change your life, and I'll see you in the next video. Let's fucking have it.